Hey guys, here's another introduction for our game changing performance process of fat loss podcast. Today we're interviewing Dr. Brian Kelchen of Libertyville Wellness Group, and we're just going to learn about his business, learn what he does, the things that he's a chiropractor for first introduction. So he's a chiropractor, but most of you guys know that he can do a lot more than that. And we want to make sure that everybody knows that he has more capabilities than that. So we're just going to start off with a simple thing. Dr. Brian, what does Libertyville Wellness Group and is all the things you guys do there?
Libertyville Wellness Group is a chiropractic clinic in Libertyville, Illinois. We're located right across the street from Austin, so up on 137 and 21, basically. And what we do is a combination of an assessment, which is really important to make sure that I am the right kind of doctor for you. People are like, I don't know if I should see a chiropractor. It's luckily not your job to know if you should see a chiropractor or not. It's mine to make sure you're a good fit for what we can do. So we do a combination of adjustments, which I have over 20 different techniques I incorporate based off of what's going on with you. And then we do physical therapy, which is pretty high-end physical therapy. It's all done by a doctor. So we don't have aids. It's very individualized. So we're not doing the same exercises for every single person that comes in the door. And we can progress people quicker because we're actually doing the work. And then we have 3 licensed massage therapists on staff. So it's not spa-type massage. It's much more medical. It sometimes hurts a little bit, but it gets you where you want to go.
Yeah, I mean, my wife have been using you for a long time. Obviously, we just moved to Prescott, and I know Nate and his wife go to you guys all the time. A lot of our clients have been seeing you. We've really been partnering together since we opened like 8 years ago. So it's been awesome. We've been sending people. So it's cool because the big thing for us is we send people to you for things that we're like, well, I'm sure Dr. Brian can fix it, right? It's usually like an injury that's like my elbow hurts, I'm having lower back pain, just simple. And it's like, we'll be like, well, go check out Dr. Brian. Like, well, it's maybe not a back, it's a shoulder and stuff. And it's like, well, he can still work on it. Let him take a look at you. So it's kind of cool. Like when you talk about all the different things you guys do, like I think people just forget the realm of it. They just think you're going to crack their back and they're going to move on. And you guys do like, I mean, I do get my back cracked every time I go there, but realistically, you guys do so many more from like manual manipulation and things of that nature. So I mean, but let's go ahead and start off with the number one area that most people like see a chiropractor for is like, what are the most common issues that you run into with people with lower back issues? Like, what are you seeing when they come in for lower back stuff?
So most people will call it sciatica, but it's not by the book definition sciatica. Not all low back pain is sciatica. In order to be sciatica, it actually has to start near the low back, go all the way down to your foot all the time. That's true sciatica. Your sciatic nerve is actually 4 nerve roots, L2 through L5, and sometimes S1. So it's a big nerve plexus. What I want to do is correctly diagnose it, whether it's L1, L2, L3, L4, in terms of what nerve is being affected, and then what is causing that. It could be disc, it could be joint, it could be muscle, or some combination of all 3 is the typical. It's kind of like a clothespin, where if you don't treat the muscle, strengthen the area, and get it adjusted and mobile correctly, it just won't heal all the way.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things at GCP we talk about a lot is like getting adjustment, but you also have to do the strength training with it. We have to rebuild that tissue. And I know we've worked on that a lot with you. Like, what are some movements that we can do at GCP to like improve the things that you're seeing consistently? So what are things that people could do, like just even if they're not training at GCP, what are some things they could do in their daily routine to kind of work on some of that sciatica stuff?
Yeah, so the most common underlying cause is an anterior pelvic tilt, meaning that your whole pelvis is shifted forward. The reason why it's shifted forward is because we sit so much of the day. I just listened to another TED Talk the other day where this high-end biomechanic professor was talking about human biomechanics, how we sit 90% of our day. So you sleep. Most people sleep sideways and in a fetal position, meaning that you're seated. You get up, you walk downstairs, you sit again to eat breakfast, you get up, you go to your car or maybe just your office now working from home, and you sit for the rest of your day. You're done with work, you sit down to eat dinner, and then you sit to watch TV. And so we're seated all day. And what that does is it turns off your glutes. We actually get it's called neurologically inhibited to your glutes. So you can't actually fire them anymore if you're not working out on a consistent basis. So glute strength and hamstring strength are probably the number one thing I don't see people do. And it's really hard to isolate out, even in like high-end personal training, because we're so efficient with our quads that we end up taking even squats over. People are like, well, I do a lot of squats. Squats, even in purest form, 60% quad, 40% hamstring. So we need to isolate those muscles out. So glute bridges, reverse planks. If you can do those during your day, and especially if you can do 10, 15 of them at a time, it only takes 2 or 3 minutes, and you can really counteract that sitting mechanism.
Yeah, I think like we're a fitness facility, and it's always about volume when you come into a fitness facility. No matter how much we try to get people to slow down, do better technique, but it's still that person next to you is going faster, so you go faster. And I think some of the seminars that you've done for us this last year, I think a lot of people were surprised, the ones that came to it, because like you slowed their technique down, you really forced them to engage, and like, oh my God, this is like, I know, especially I'm thinking the shoulder one, but I know you did a glute one or lower body one for us too. Like even the shoulder one, like just slowing that pace down on things and forcing that range of motion. Some of our clients like, holy crap, this is way harder than we do in class. It's like, well, this is what we want you to do, but you're always trying to beat the person next to you. So it's a good tip. Like the idea is like, you need to slow it down, and you need to do it in that slower pace throughout, like if you're doing it on the side outside of GCP, but also like that individual focus where it's like you got to put that attention just to those glutes. And it's really hard to do, honestly, even in an exercise setting. It's sometimes almost one of those things where you need to do at home, where you're not worried about everything else around you, really just focus on that. Or like what you guys do, physical therapy, when somebody has really bad issues, doing physical therapy is a great way to overcome that initial issues, but obviously you got to keep working on it over time.
Yeah, it's just a different goal set. Like you go to a GCP to burn as many calories as possible, which is great. And it helps with a whole bunch of other things and makes you stronger as a whole. When you're having issues or injuries, or you're trying to prevent issues or injuries, you have to slow things down, pace it out. Slow and control is what I say all the time in terms of rehab. It doesn't burn a ton of calories, but you'll get a lot better results in terms of prevention. So that way you're activating the correct muscle at the correct time to actually get what you want out of it. When you're just whipping or going quickly, you're still going to use the muscles that are the most efficient, unfortunately, because we're very efficient creatures.
In terms of like with the glutes, I know a lot of times there's stuff with the sciatica nerve or the trigger points there. Do you recommend anything like foam rollers, lacrosse balls, anything of that nature?
Yeah, so I really like sitting on a lacrosse ball. Typically, you're going to be releasing your piriformis instead of your glutes. Your glutes are already kind of stretched and over tight and pretty weak, so we work on strengthening those. And then really foam rolling, massage gunning, stretching your quads is the best thing you can do for your lower back and keeping your lower back mobile. It sounds counterintuitive because they're on opposite sides, but if you release the front half and you strengthen the back half, 9 times out of 10, you're going to feel better.
Yeah, it's a really hard thing for us to tell our clients when they're always like, well, they're like, hey, this hurts, and we go to the backside or we go the opposite side of that muscle, and like, we need to work here, and they just like, no, that's not what hurts. I'm like, well, I know it's not what hurts, but we know for sure that it's going to be the antagonistic muscle group that's actually causing the damage. But it is hard to get people because then they just go foam roll. They have a shoulder issue and they go roll the front side of that shoulder and they never work on the back side of that shoulder. Okay, so let's go ahead and go in from there. Like obviously the lower body, the lower back is what I would guess like probably 50% of the people probably come to see you initially for that component. But like from our clientele, I think we actually send more people to you for upper body injuries than I even send you for lower back injuries, because if I'm being honest, I think our training does a pretty good job on some of the glute firing and stuff like that. But what people do is they sit so much in the computer position that we can't get them like loosened up enough in the upper back. So she's like, I need you to see Dr. Brian to work on this first because we can't get you out of kyphosis. So what are the main upper body like shoulder issues you run into the most?
So the biggest underlying cause of like shoulder pain, shoulder issues is what's called upper cross syndrome. So when we sit all day, we curl forward, and that really engages your pec. It really engages your bicep. And those two muscles are so big and powerful, they take over for all the other weaknesses in your shoulder. And unfortunately, over time, it just gets worse and worse and worse. And then when you go to do a motion, you're out of correct position. Even if you're really trying, you're still overactivating, and then weaker muscles tear. Most commonly, supraspinatus in the rotator cuff or labral tears is probably what I see the most in your population group. Like where if you're over the age of 30, it's more common to tear your labrum than it is to tear your rotator cuff. Rotator cuff injuries happen more commonly in younger athletes. When we're trying to correct it, it's all about strength and balance again, and mostly strengthening the rotator cuff and releasing the pec and bicep are the most common things.
So what are the like some tips they could do to prevent that or reverse that if they have some of those issues?
Yeah, so the biggest thing is posture. And people are like, I have horrible posture. It's like, for now. Is what I always say. It's not one of those things you're just born with. It slowly occurs over time because you're not taking care of your back. So we have to do rows, reverse flies, pull back, pull down. And a good ratio is 3 or 4 back half exercises for every 1 front half exercise. When we go to the mirror, when we go to the gym, we're doing a lot of push-ups, we're doing a lot of pull-ups, we're doing all these things that are front half exercises because that's what we see in the mirror, that's what we care about, and they're also bigger, so they burn drastically more calories. So it all fulfills this cycle of not pulling us backwards. So those are the biggest exercises, but then rotator cuff. And luckily we did a talk, and I think it's on both of our sites, where we did like a bulletproofing your shoulder. If you go through and watch that and do those exercises, you can prevent almost all these injuries.
Yeah, that's like, I mean, I've always known about like a lot of the rotator cuff stuff and the shoulder stuff, but after the seminar we did with you, me and Erica, my wife, started like really putting it into our program a lot. And so we had like the crossover symmetry type bands that you have. And so we started putting that in consistently. And for those of you guys that don't know, Erica has really bad TMJ, and she's working with Dr. Brian for over a year before we moved down here on that kind of stuff. And, you know, TMJ is one of those, it's a hard thing to correct. And she still has obviously things to go along with that. But the big thing you guys worked on is like, she has such bad posture. Like she's horribly hunched forward. And so like we've been working on that a lot, trying to get that postural position back. And that's helped because she had a lot of tension headaches from like her TMJ. And so those have gone completely away. She still has some of the jaw stuff. And I think that stuff like she's always obviously going to have to keep working on. But it was amazing that like, I remember when we first started dating, and I was like, well, you should see a chiropractor for your TMJ. She's like, well, what do you mean? A chiropractor can work on that? And I was like, yeah, you really could. And then we started getting her in with you, and like, it's amazing how quickly the initial pain relief, I didn't realize how bad a pain she was in, how the initial pain relief had disappeared. And then once we started incorporating a lot of the rotator cuff and upper back stuff, how a lot of the tension headaches went away. So that was really cool.
Yeah, posture and the upper traps being tight over facilitated. You see it a lot more commonly in women than men because they get colder and they're kind of taught to hide themselves when they're younger, unfortunately. So they end up here, and then that creates a lot of tension. And then it goes right up to your mastoid, and then that causes a significant portion of headaches. Like I think it's 85%, if I'm not, it's somewhere in that range in terms of. That is the primary cause of headache, is your upper trap being too tight from your posture being bad.
Yeah, it's incredible. And like you said, like one thing I was surprised by, and I don't know if I heard this in one of your lectures, what it was, but like you said, young women, because like they develop their chest at earlier ages, they start to like hunch over and start to like hide themselves a little bit from young boys who are like pain in the butt. And so like those middle school boys, you know, and like, but that kind of stays with them almost the rest of their life, which is incredible. And you kind of fight that stuff in your 30s and 40s. And it's amazing because like I do see, I mean, obviously men have bad posture, but if I was to say the number one, like when I see most women walking in, I very, very rarely see one with good posture, and we have to work on that a lot. So this is one that I heard in your lecture probably 2 years ago now that kind of blew my mind, was when you talked about knee surgeries and how a lot of knee surgeries are preventable. Like, why is that the case?
So knee surgery, the most common knee surgery is on meniscus, and then second most common is what's called the unhappy triad, which is when you tear your MCL, your medial meniscus, and your ACL all at the same time. The reason why that happens is due to what's called valgus stress on the knee. So your knee starts to go inwards. The reason why it does that is because we use our quads so much more than our hamstrings that we get imbalanced, and then it creates instability in the knee itself. And at that point, once it's unstable, it's only a matter of time. And especially in women and young athletes, that inward stress due to their hips getting wider causes that knee to go inward. So what you do is you strengthen the opposite muscles. Again, you're going to hear me talk about strengthening opposite muscles a lot because it's PT 101 on like a grand scale. If something's over tight, we need to release that. If something's weak, we need to strengthen that. It's very simple. At the end of the day, you can get uber complex in the exercises you do, but the reason why you're doing it is very simple. So you work on really strengthening the hamstring and the lateral portion of the quad, and then you work on releasing the front part of the quad, inner part of the quad, and you can prevent those knee tears in most cases. There's still some, your foot gets caught, you get tackled, but the vast majority of like that unhappy tear actually occurs in space where you're not hit, you're not touched. Your knee opens and pops is what you'll feel, and it will swell instantly and cause a debilitating level of pain. The nice part about it is just meniscus is if it's in the vascular area, which is 80% of that meniscus is vascular, it can heal on its own. You don't technically need surgery. If it's in the avascular portion, then you have to get surgery to get it repaired. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You just have to do it at that point.
Yeah, I think I know when me and Nate talk to clients about that from time to time, they're like, "Well, let's work on more of that." Especially the thing that I from you is like the lower part of the quad, getting more down towards that knee area. I can't believe how both me and him have had so much knee tension there without realizing we did. Because Nate's had a lot of issues. I don't remember if it's his right knee or left knee since he's been seeing you. He's had a lot of issues with that, and I know he's corrected a lot of those. And I think it's just kind of funny because like even in my expertise on training and stuff, and I always know we work the antagonistic muscle a lot, but it never dawned on me that like a lot of the injuries that happen are in certain knee things are from over tightness of those knees, which still probably relates back to sitting too often. So
Sitting is the biggest one, or facilitation of our quads in general, which is partially sitting. It's partially because every sport that you can name is mostly quad. And I mean, unless you're like a defenseman in hockey, you just don't go backwards very much. You might go backwards for a couple steps, and then you immediately turn to go forward because you're much faster going forward than you are backwards. And so you're never using those muscles completely. And that's a big part of it, is like we start to shuffle walk as we get older. We don't take complete steps. We don't walk very fast, partially because we're trained to walk face other people, partially because we don't engage our glutes. Like as you walk through the store, you can see more and more people hunch forward rather than standing upright. Standing upright means you're activated, means you're engaged. As you slunge forward, then everything is get turned off and you're just using those same muscles. And that's where injuries really start. And then calf tightness is the other big part of quad tightness. If your calf is tight, your quad's going to be tight, and vice versa. So you have to release those both at the same time in order to get your knee in a healthy position.
okay, yeah, that's really good to know. I'm having some like hip tightness right now. I've been having some trouble sleeping, but I have like a big Charlie horse in the bottom of my calf. I have no idea where it came from, hiking or something. But I've been stretching and working on the hips and the quads a ton. Haven't touched my calf at all, so that tells me I need to get in my calf a little bit because there's probably a little bit of that coming from the calf. So,
yeah, especially if you're over 30 and male, you need to take really good care of your calf. The most common adult male injury is a torn Achilles, and it's from your calf being too tight.
okay, that's good to know because I have overly tight calves. But that's one thing Dr. Brian works on a lot because every single time I'd go in there, he'd get into my calf and I'd be like, holy, I had no idea it was as tight as it was until he dug into it. I'm like, holy smokes. And it's one of those things that's like, you weren't really pushing that hard. It's just they were so darn tight that like it just shows up in my nervous system like, holy smokes, that thing's tight. So.
Yeah, and it's always worse when somebody else is doing it versus when you're doing it yourself. And obviously I know where to press to get the biggest release, but it does make it slightly uncomfortable. The muscle work I do a combination of Graston, which some other people might call it scraping, and then I do ART, which is active release technique. So I pin the muscle, take it through active range of motion to release it, and then we do PT cupping as well, all to make that muscle happier so the joint can work correctly.
Yeah, that's one thing like I love about you guys is like I've been to other chiropractors in my life and my light just shut off. But other chiropractors in my life, and what they would a lot of times do is they would ask me what kind I'd want, which is I always found weird. Like, do you want to do Graston or ART? And at the time, I luckily knew what those things were. But how many people actually know what those things are? It's like you guys just literally do what's the right thing for the muscle. Like, okay, we're going to do this. I mean, definitely ask somebody on the Graston side because that can be a little bit more painful. But in terms of that, I always love that like people don't have to make a choice when they come to you. It's more like, hey, this is the right type of therapy. This is what we're going to do. So.
And I usually do a combination of all three for most areas of the body because your body gets a chance to heal from one of them. Graston's kind of like a shotgun approach. You treat the whole muscle from start to finish, and you can see it turn red. And then once it gets red enough like a steak, you're done. ART is more like a sniper approach where you're releasing specific portions of specific muscles to get this big release. And luckily that one doesn't bruise quite as often for fair complected people. And then the PT cupping, of course, is like a combination of the two because we do glide it and then we set it and then we do active ranges of motion with it. But that one bruises every single time. And all of this is done to tolerance. The goal isn't just to cause pain, even though I do... most people talk about the pain part, but the release of all these things is why people keep coming back and keep choosing us versus other people.
Yeah, some of those things are like Graston can be very painful in the moment, but it's amazing how much better I feel almost instantly. And I mean, with cupping, the funny part is we have our own cupping set, me and Erica do. And after she got cupped by you, she's like obsessed with it. And so she wants to be cupped like I only let her do it every 2 weeks, mainly because she has so many bruises from it. And I'm like, hey, you don't need to be bruised all the time. I don't want people to think I'm abusing you or something. But she is obsessed with it. I know Nate's wife, Dina's pretty obsessed with it too, because first of all, like they like to see because the cool part about cupping is you get to see the areas that get really, really dark usually means that they're struggling with blood flow, and getting that extra blood flow is always good because it needs a little bit of healing. So it's so many cool. It's fun. I find it fun, all the different like modalities you guys use, because I learned so much. My body always just feels so much better.
Yeah, we just added compression too, which has been really great for like tendonitis and like weird chronic swelling issues in the knee or elbow or shoulder. It really helps push all that inflammation out all at once, which is nice, and it feels good compared to the other techniques we have.
Yeah, I did that right before I left. And for those guys who don't know, that's like if you see some of the professional athletes after games, they have these compression sleeves. They look like hockey pants on. They have these compression sleeves on their feet, on their legs or their shoulders and stuff. And that's all it is, just literally water going through there, creating compression through the things. But it's simple and easy. You just got to sit there and let the body kind of just do its job of getting rid of the is the inflammation you're trying to get rid of mainly?
Yeah, so there's different settings. You can do it just for lactic acid, which we don't typically do here, but a lot of triathlons and athletes use it for that purpose. Or in our world, it's a lymphatic massage, so it's pushing all that lymph tissue and swelling out of the joint, out of the muscle tissue, up back to where it's supposed to be. So that way your legs or arms kind of feel like new afterwards, as soon as you get feeling back in your feet or hands.
So one of the other things that we get a lot, especially because, our age group is, really realistically 40 plus is kind of our sweet spot. And we get a lot of people that always tell me, especially on the female side, is we get a lot of people that always say, I need to have carpal tunnel surgery. And I know you do a lot of stuff with carpal tunnel. Like give some tips and advice on carpal tunnel.
Yeah, so carpal tunnel, the surgery itself is actually rated the number 2 least successful surgery by the AARP. So it does not work very well. In fact, it usually causes more harm than good. Why they still recommend it is because it's a very profitable surgery, in all honesty, and they don't know how else to treat it. The underlying cause of carpal tunnel is overactivation and facilitation of the flexors of your hands. So we grip all day, every day. Everything is gripping. Your phone, typing, texting, driving, you name it, we're gripping. We are phenomenal at it. The problem is that we never work on extension. So we need to strengthen those extension muscles. The easiest way is to grab a rubber band and wrap it around your fingers like so, and then work on opening and then trying to hold it, and then closing, opening. And instead of grabbing a stress ball, that would actually make it worse. Foam rolling, massage gunning, frozen bottle of water is one of my favorites, to actually roll your forearms every day. People don't think about their hands until their hands hurt. And by that point, it's much harder to get rid of. If you take care of your arms and hands on a regular basis, it will never happen, which is the beautiful part, because it's a very resilient area of our body. We just take it for granted until something goes wrong. It kind of links to elbow tendonitis as well, because it's the same muscles. You're just feeling it at a different part of the joint. So if you start to feel your elbow, that means you really need to start taking care of your forearm. Otherwise, the carpal tunnel syndrome stuff will start to occur. Not that long after, unfortunately. So they're very linked, they're very correlated. So you have to treat it quickly and consistently. Consistency outweighs anything else. If you're not working out consistently, you're not eating well consistently, if you're not taking care of your body consistently, it will slowly break down.
Yeah, we had a client probably like 4 years ago. She came to one of your lectures at the gym. And so if you guys don't know, Dr. Brian usually does at least one, if not 2 lectures a year at our facility, working on upper body or lower body kind of things. And she came to it, and you had talked about carpal tunnel, and she was just simply using a lacrosse ball at her desk. And she was having some severe carpal tunnel issues. And I just asked her probably like 3 months ago. I was like, hey, how's that? Like, did you ever get surgery on that thing? She's like, no, I just started doing it. Dr. Brian said I kept that lacrosse ball at my desk every single day. And she's like rolled it like 2 or 3 times a day. And she's like, probably about 2 months in, the pain just like literally started disappearing. And then because she'd done it, she just religiously does it every single day, because she does so much computer work. She works for insurance company and does so much computer work. And so she just rolled it every couple times a day, every single day. And just the pain has never come back, which, it's simple. It's because it didn't go away instantly. I think people want that pain to go away in day one. It doesn't go away instantly, but give it, a couple months of just being very consistent, which the consistency is the most important thing. She's very consistent at it, and it just disappeared. And her doctor was telling her she needs to have carpal tunnel syndrome and surgery, and just never had it. So, yeah,
most surgeries like that are very preventable if you're willing to do the work. In the medical community, there's this weird, we should just fix it because people aren't going to take the time or effort or energy to help themselves, which is kind of a misconception, especially like in your population group, because they're already doing most of the right things. They're eating better, they're exercising, trying to take care of themselves. So it's not the same population group that they're seeing, but they kind of lump everybody into the same, where if I can potentially fix this in a day, I'm going to do that, even though there might be something that you could do to prevent that surgery and then prevent any issues moving forward just by taking care of yourself.
Yeah, that's I mean, our number one recovery tool for people is just like doing body work, right? Just consistently doing body work on it. I'm horrible at it too. I forget it a lot, where it's like I get too busy with things and then something aches and falls apart on me. It's like, oh, here we go. I got to fix it again if I would have done the stuff I was supposed to. But it's kind of hard too, because like you might be working on like your hips or something, then all of a sudden your shoulder flares up. So it is one of those things where it's like just that consistency of knowing what to do and then starting to go to work when that thing kind of falls apart is important.
Yeah, I really like supersetting like rehab exercises in, or trying to do active recovery. So let's say you work out 3 times a week. Those other days, you still have that time. And that's a great opportunity to do active recovery. Do your shoulders one of those days, then do your lower body one of those days. And your workouts will get better because you can stabilize better. So you'll burn more calories. And you'll prevent all these injuries happening, so that way you can be consistent at the gym and consistent in your overall life. So you're not missing important things just because you're hurt.
Yeah, that's actually for those guys that are clients of ours. If you didn't know, we built a lower body, like I would call it a stretching program for the lower body in our program, where it's like you do your training 3 days a week at GCP, and then they get a free in our habit delivery program. They get 2 times a week where they can do a stretching program for us for the lower body. And then Nick right now is designing an upper body one based on that seminar you did for us. He's going through and picking out different exercises. So for clients of ours, if you guys have any of those issues, we can just put it into your program for free. We just throw it in. You just can either do it at the gym beforehand, or you guys all can buy the bands and stuff for at home. You can do it at your home. It's probably easier to do it at home. But the idea is we have taken that to heart to kind of get people, because our thing is when you're not working out at GCP, because we only recommend 3 days a week. And then we want you walking 4 or 5 days a week, doing lower body stretching on a couple of those days. And now we have the upper body program being built for them to do that on the side too, because it is one of those things where if we don't have it available for people, they'll just forget to do it. So
yeah, and carving out that time is one of the hardest things to do. And one of the easiest ways to stay consistent in working out or in your diet is just to do it every day. It sounds silly and like, oh, of course I want to do it every day, but I can't. Even if, for the recovery side of it, even if you're doing 15, 20 minutes, you're going to get a lot done in 15 or 20 minutes. Most physical therapy sessions are only 35 or 40 minutes, and you can do almost the entire body if you know what you're doing in that kind of time. So you don't need a full hour like a normal workout.
Yeah, that's where people always overestimate how much time they need to do it, because they get so excited in the beginning, right? And they try to do too much. It's like, we just need the simple stuff. I need you to do this religiously well for a couple months, if not longer, you know?
Yeah, most of them shouldn't go away. Like, that's probably the most common thing I see is you start to feel better. It's not a priority anymore. It's not a priority. It doesn't get done. And if it doesn't get done, slowly but surely you'll go back into the same pattern you were in before, and the pain will come back. And while it's fixable again, you don't want to be in that cycle of pain, recovery, pain, recovery, pain, recovery forever. You want to get to this wellness level where it's a lot easier to maintain. It requires a lot less effort, a lot less time, and you can keep adding more weight and burning more calories at the gym because you've done all these little steps to get there.
Yeah, that leads perfect into the final question I have, is like, a lot of people always ask us is, why do I have to consistently do chiropractic, right? After I get done with my, 6-week program or whatever, or however long you need to be there, why do I need to keep doing it? And me and Nate, like, it's always been, because we've been coming to you for so long, it's just like part of our routine. We come every 2 weeks forever, it feels like. But a lot of people like always like, I'll be like, hey, have you still seen Dr. Brian? Oh no, I finished my program. I was like, well, do you go once a month still and see it? And so why is maintenance important for these people?
Well, maintenance it saves you a lot of money. It's like doing maintenance on your car. If you change your oil every 3,000 or 5,000 miles, whatever your oil tells you to, your engine can last 400,000 or 500,000 miles, right? If you don't do that, if you let it go extra, if you get to that 10,000 mile mark, you're gonna have sludge, you're gonna have buildup. It's gonna be a lot harder to fix. Your engine might even seize, like your back seizes, and most of that, if not all of that, was preventable just by getting adjusted every handful of weeks. Your body doesn't always tell you what's going on until it hurts. It takes 70% nerve occlusion in order for you to feel the first amount of pain. So pain is one of the last things to come. It's one of the first things to go away. So if all you're focused on is pain, which we've been trained since we were little kids, to only go to the doctor when it hurts, only go to the doctor when you need it. So it takes a big shift to in your self to realize that it's part of my own self-care to do all these things so that way I can prevent getting hurt. I can feel better overall. On average, if you see a chiropractor regularly, it drops your blood pressure by 10 points. It decreases your hospitalization by 82%. It decreases surgery by 90%. So all these other things come into play. You're drastically less likely to get sick because your immune system works better. All these, you process food better, so you're going to burn weight better. You're going to absorb the correct calories better. Because it's your nervous system, your whole body's affected all the time. And if we can keep that optimized, you don't have to work quite as hard, is the great part about maintenance.
Yeah, that's with our clients, and especially, speaking to our clients here, it's like you guys come into the gym consistently because you want to stave off. I mean, obviously lose body fat to begin with, but then it's usually you want to stave off the doctor. You want to stay healthier longer. And it's like, well, if you can pair us together, which is a consistent thing, a couple times a week, to at least get in Dr. Brian once a month minimum, like you could, I mean, that's making you like into your 60s and 70s and 80s, still moving like really well if you have those two things combined. So.
Yeah, and I think that's the other things. Like people, like the first thing to say is it's because I'm X age. And I hear it as soon as like 20, right? It's not, age is just a number one. Like there are 100-year-olds running marathons. And number two, we got to concentrate on the things we can control. We can't control how old we are. We can control how we take care of whatever age we are. Yeah,
for sure. All right, we're going to go ahead and wrap up for the day. Dr. Brian, do you have anything like anything coming up that people can any seminars coming up? I know, did you end up opening up your golf place?
So hopefully October 1, I'm opening up precision golf training. We'll see if it doesn't get pushed back again, but it's a golf simulator business. I'll hopefully have an open house sometime in October. I'll send it out to Trevor so you guys can stop by if you want, see the facility. It's going to be a pretty cool opportunity to practice golf all year round with remote access and 24/7 access, and more of a golf performance place rather than a social place like an X Golf. So if you're really into golf or trying to get better at golf or just thinking about golf or know a good golfer, they would be great people to send that direction. And then I think I don't have any talks lined up yet, but I'll keep you guys in the loop and then go from there.
Yeah, we'll definitely have a talk probably with Dr. Brian probably coming around the January, February timeframe usually, because we did yours in the summer. I think the summer, this one, we usually try to put you about every 6 months. So we get you in there often enough because we get so many new clients. We want them to see, hey, this is the guy that like fixes all the people that fall apart. Not that I don't think our training is the thing making them fall apart, but combination of their lifestyle, adding training on top of us. If you get the mobility and stuff taken care of, it'll just make training so much easier. Like you said, it'd make it so much, that maintenance category makes it so much you more fluid and efficient when you're working out. So
yeah, work smarter, not harder, and just keep the consistency up. But I really appreciate you having me on, and I look forward to seeing you soon.
Yeah, guys. All right, guys. Thanks for listening today. Dr. Brian, again, he's in Libertyville. If you guys are clients of ours in the gym, we have a ton of his cards there. Always grab one of those if you need to go see him. It's very simple. He makes it a very simple process for you guys to be part of his facility. I know a lot of you guys work with other chiropractors. Like if you have those, great. But Dr. Brian is always there. He can always help you out with anything. He takes a lot of different insurance as well, which helps out too. So, all right, guys. Thanks for listening to our podcast today.